Hi, and welcome to Are You Ready? This is a two-part series of disaster planning for families, individuals, seniors, people with disabilities, and special needs. We will cover what you need to know to shelter in your home or be evacuated in case of a disaster. In our county, that might include floods, winter storm, or wildfires. My name is Peggy Rourke Nichols. I'm a registered nurse with over 30 years of experience. I have a deep-rooted passion in emergency preparedness that goes back to 1984 when California had their Quake Safe program. I was fortunate enough to be teaching in long-term care facilities and schools, educating them what to do in case the big one hit ever in Southern California. Now up here, I've taken that information and used it to create a platform for emergency preparedness as it applies to people in Calaveras County. Specifically in this segment, we'll focus on seniors, people with disabilities, and special needs. It's been 5 years since Hurricane Katrina hit, and I know that all of us were impacted deeply by the images we saw on the television of the sick, the infirmed, and the aged who were left behind and stranded due to this very unusual disaster. From that disaster, the American Red Cross and FEMA have banded together in order to provide disaster services for senior citizens, people with disabilities, and special needs. And that will be the focus of the second part of this program today. The numbers are right here for FEMA and for the Red Cross. It's www.ready.gov for FEMA, and it's www.redcross.org for the American Red Cross. If you have computer access, you can go to your computer and get all the information you need. The 800 number for FEMA is 1-800-BE-READY. 1-800-BE-READY. Any information that we cover today, they have available for you, and it's all free. They provide specifics on emergency and family disaster planning. They have pamphlets available for seniors, for people with disabilities and special needs. I encourage all of you to call and ask for this information. It's free of charge, paid for you by your taxes. Many of the same principles that we covered in Part 1 apply in Part 2, and that is putting together a family disaster kit, making sure you have a family evacuation plan, making sure that you have an adequate supply of stored food and water, and that if you have to shelter in place, as many people do as they age in the population, how to plan for that. As you prepare, consider all the strategies and tools and devices that you use on a daily basis in order to stay in your home. Keep in mind that you may need an extra supply of medication. You may need a walker. If you're in a motorized wheelchair, you may need a portable wheelchair that collapses in order for you to evacuate from your home. If you have powered machinery, you may need a generator as a backup to help you at times of crisis. You want to make sure that your service animal, if you're fortunate enough to have one, is also covered during emergencies. And again, FEMA and the Red Cross do have information that covers pets in the disaster situation. By talking with you today about this, we can come up with a plan for seniors, people with special needs and disabilities in case there is a wildfire, flood, or snowstorm where you have to shelter in place or evacuate right away. You want to make sure that you create a support network. This can be with your family, your friends, your neighborhood, service organizations like the Boy Scouts or the Girl Scouts, or even with your church. People who've come to know you in the community know that you have special needs or that you're disabled, and they know that in a time of crisis you may need to reach out to them. If you create that network of support now, you won't have to worry about it when a disaster hits. It's also important to contact the Calaveras County Office of Emergency Services and let them know what your special needs are at a time of crisis. For example, with my latex allergy, I know I have to shelter in place. I can't go to a public shelter anymore. I've let the county emergency office know that if there's a disaster, I will stay in my home for as long as possible. They may not like it, but it's what's necessary in order for me because I have special needs. If you have battery or powered operated equipment, you want to make sure that your people in your support network know how they work. For instance, this is my battery powered nebulizer. If there were to be a power outage, well, there was a power outage in the January storms, and my nebulizer was charged initially for only a 30-minute delivery of my medication. I called the fire department. They came to my house and brought a generator, and they were able to hook me up and come over as often as I needed during this snowstorm until I was able to power up my battery-operated nebulizer again. My neighbors know what I need, and they know when I need it. They know where it's located, and it's important for you to share that information with your friends and family in your support network. You want to make sure that if you have dialysis or you need other life-sustaining equipment, that you know where alternate dialysis centers are. You know where your durable medical equipment comes from. You know the serial number, the model, and the make of it. Again, if you plan for this ahead of time, when a disaster hits, you'll be more prepared. You want to keep contact information close as far as assisted living facilities go, paratransit. In case you have to evacuate, how are you going to do so? Do you have an automobile? Do you need help? Does someone need to drive you or pick you up and take you to the shelter? These are all things, if you talk about ahead of time, you'll be much better off. If you use in-home support services like Meals on Wheels or the visiting nurses, Life Alert, or other support agencies, call them now and talk to them and ask them, in case of a disaster, how are they going to be able to assist you? Again, FEMA and the Red Cross now realize this was an area that they were lacking in before, and now all kinds of services are available to seniors, people with disabilities and special needs. During a time of disaster, please take the time to prepare. Develop backup plans for personal assistance services or hospice if you use them. Again, don't wait until the crisis happens. Keep in mind that first responders and emergency officials want to know how they can assist you. If they have to help you with evacuation, let them know that. In addition to the basic family medical kit, your specific kit as a senior or a person with special needs or disability may need to include an extra pair of eyeglasses, an extra set of hearing aid with batteries. You may need to have denture needs, battery chargers, and a generator if you have a powered chair, or if you have an oxygen machine in your house. It's very important that you have copies of all of your doctor's prescriptions for you. Your medical care plan should all be in place so that if you have to leave, you have it available. One thing that's very modern, and I know some people are familiar with computers and some people are not, this is called a flash drive. And if you don't have a computer, you can find a family friend or go to the county library, and someone can assist you in creating your own personal medical file. And then you can download it onto a flash drive and make this part of your emergency disaster kit. Wherever you go, all they have to do is plug this into a computer, and they'll know what your needs are, whether you're deaf, whether you have speech issues, whether you have a spinal condition, or if you are diabetic. This can speak for you when you can't speak for yourself. If possible, to have extra oxygen is difficult, but if it's possible to have extra oxygen, it's a good idea. If you're insulin dependent, you want to make sure you have extra insulin, catheters, and other medical supplies you use regularly. Label any equipment that you have, such as wheelchairs, walkers, and canes, with your name and address. I use those free stickers that come in the mail all the time. I actually put them to good use, and they label all my durable medical equipment so that if I get separated from it during a disaster, it will get back to me. In a disaster setting, people with special needs have to plan ahead. If you're visually impaired, you might be extremely reluctant to leave your house or your surroundings when an evacuation order comes. Your guide dog might be very edgy about leaving also. People who are blind or partially sighted have to depend on others to help them during a disaster. If you're hearing impaired, you may not hear the evacuation notice. You may not be aware that there's an emergency going on. Again, you need to make special arrangements ahead of time to receive warnings in the time of a disaster. If you're mobility impaired, if you're wheelchair bound, you have a house with stairs, your plan should be in place so that you can evacuate. And that would mean the Office of Emergency Services needs to know that you would need help leaving your home. If you're non-English speaking, I am very happy to tell you that all of these materials that are offered by the Red Cross and FEMA are available in a multitude of languages. I have an example here of the earthquake preparedness forms that are in Spanish. They have them in so many languages I couldn't write them down and I can't pronounce half of them. But what's important to know is that FEMA and the Red Cross have really opened their cultural diversity, opened an avenue of cultural diversity to the public so that anybody who has needs can have them met in an emergency. When I was doing my preparation, there was even a whole book in Thai. It was in English and in Thai. I was so impressed. And they're really considering the fact that seniors and people with special needs may not speak English, and they have to have these information booklets available in other languages. Think about people in your neighborhood who don't have a vehicle. You may not consider that as a special need, but it really is. They have no way to get to a shelter. If that's the situation and you don't have a car, it's your responsibility to make sure ahead of time that you can evacuate. Again, contact a neighbor, your church, make sure that you're in on someone's plan. So if evacuation occurs and you're carless, you may leave safely. If you have special dietary needs, it truly is your responsibility to make sure they can be met. I hate to use myself as an example, but I will again with my latex allergy. There are over 30 foods that I'm allergic to. I shelter in place because it's safe for me, and I have my foods that I can eat at home. I have my eggless noodles. I have all kinds of canned goods that are safe for me, but I cannot eat food at a shelter because then I'd go from being an evacuee to being an emergency room patient in a time of a disaster. It's my responsibility as someone with a special need to make sure that my dietary needs are met and not expect someone else to meet them. So if you're a diabetic, if you have food allergies, please make sure that you have the food stored in your home that can assist you in times of either a shelter in place or an evacuation. Anyone with special medical conditions should know which ER is up and running after a disaster. It may not be Mark Twain, or it may not be Sonora Regional. You may have to leave the area to get medical care. If you're having a medical crisis, contact 911 as soon as possible and let them know. But again, if you have the ability to do so, take the time now to plan ahead and find out what other hospitals in the area offer the supportive care you need, whether it's dialysis, transfusions, whatever that might be. We often need to address people with intellectual disabilities. They may need help responding to any emergency as simple as a winter storm or as challenging as a wildfire. If you are one of these people or you know someone who is, please take the time to share with them and include them in your plan or help them establish a plan. It's important that everyone, regardless of your special needs or disability or your age, be able to respond to an emergency. Again, the 3 emergencies we're looking at in Calaveras County that present themselves on a regular occasion are floods, wildfires, and extended snowstorms where you might be isolated or have to shelter in place. The last population I want to take a moment to refer to are people with dementia or Alzheimer's. The Alzheimer's Association now has a program called the Safe Return Program. If you or you know someone who has dementia or Alzheimer's, please take the time to contact them and register your individual or your loved one with this program. After a disaster, they can help you find them if they get misplaced. And also take the time to call the Office of Emergency Services so you can register with them and they know in case they have to help you out. Another glitch that occurred after Katrina, and I hate bringing it up, but it truly is an example of what went wrong and then what's gone right since then, was the inability of seniors and people with special needs to get their medications refilled after a disaster. We all now know how the insurance companies have changed, and we can only get our medications filled a month at a time. You used to be able to get 6 or 8 weeks. You'd be able to stockpile a little bit. What I used to do is take 2 out every week and then get it filled a little bit sooner. Can't do that anymore. Out of that problem has come the best solution ever. It's called the Prescription Response Project, and it was initiated by the Pharmaceutical Research and Manufacturers of America, also known as PhRMA. In the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina, people couldn't get their medications. They weren't allowed to go back to their houses. When they were being taken off the roofs by the helicopters, Who thought to grab their bag of medications? People didn't do that. Now, this program, RX Response, can be initiated by either the governor or the president declaring a state of emergency. And once that is done, this group kicks into action. And their job during a disaster is to get medication to the pharmacies, and then from the pharmacies, they get the medications to you. Where your responsibility comes in is taking the time to go to their website, which is www.rxresponse.org. www.rxresponse.org. And when you go to their website, it will lead you to tools. And one of the best tools they have is a RX Response medication card. I have an example here that I did today, and on it has my name, my phone number, my address, my physician, my hospital of choice. Most of all, what's very important is that it has my allergies and all my medications listed. So if it's a wildfire situation and there's no time to grab anything except to jump in the car and go, I have this in my purse and all my medications are listed here. Once this program is initiated, I can take this to any participating pharmacy and they will fill my prescriptions. This is one of the blessings that came out of Katrina, and that's why I do refer to Hurricane Katrina, but in a positive light, because we learned so much. FEMA and the Red Cross really understood the need to provide prescription medications to the population of the United States, because that was such a unique disaster situation that people didn't have time to grab their things. The things that you want to do if you're disabled is you want to know what to do if there's a power outage. You want to know how to turn on your backup generator or restore the main electrical power if it's been knocked out. Or you need to be able to contact someone to do so. You want to consider getting a medical alert system in place that will allow you to call for help if you are immobilized. Most alert systems work with a working phone line, and here's a little trick. I know that a lot of people don't have cell phones. There are many programs out there that provide free cell phones for seniors and people with disabilities. If you can get a cell phone and have it with you at all times, during a disaster, this can be your lifeline. In here, you have your family contacts, you have your physician contacts, you have 911. God forbid you're in a situation and you're in a building and let's say the wall has fallen on you and you don't know how to tell people where you are. If you have your cell phone, you open it up, you dial 911, and you tell them your address, that you're trapped under a wall or you're under the bed, wherever you are, and this little cell phone can be a lifeline to the outside world and save your life. I know that a lot of seniors aren't comfortable with modern technology. I have to tell you, there are cell phones out there that are simple to use and easy to get, and some of them are free. I encourage you to look into that, either through the Red Cross or through your local senior citizen center, because even though it's a modern device and it's not your hardwired landline, in an emergency for a senior citizen or a person with disability, having a cell phone in your pocket can mean a matter of life or death. If you use an electric wheelchair or scooter, make sure you always have backup batteries for that electric wheelchair and scooter. That's essential. If people are going to be coming in to help you, make sure they know how to use your suction machine, make sure they know how to use your nebulizer, make sure they know how to use your motorized equipment so that you're not having to teach them in the time of crisis. You can have a teaching session ahead of time. Make it an enjoyable afternoon. Let's come for tea, let's chat, let's help me prepare for an emergency so that when the time comes, you have that network in place. You want to be able to store what backup equipment you can. It's, again, hard to do, but it's essential. If you have a motorized wheelchair, you always want to make sure you have a backup, portable, collapsible wheelchair. If the paramedics had to, they could come to your house and transfer you from the motorized chair to the wheelchair and help you evacuate if you don't have any backup batteries. Other things that you need to consider as far as having backups go are your medical supplies. And this is what I call my medication to get my med to go box. It has everything in it that I need as a person with a latex allergy to provide for my care in a disaster. I have latex-free gloves. I have all of my medications, my nebulizers, my vitamins, my allergy medication. I have my blood pressure cuff that I can take my own blood pressure with, my stethoscope, And I can also help other people and take their blood pressures and listen to their heart. I have my husband's medications in here. And again, we have a limited supply, but we have a little bit of extra medication available for both of us. Because we've taken the time every week to take a couple of pills out here and there. We've asked the doctor for a package of samples. We've taken the time to plan ahead that we have our extra meds for at least 72 hours, if not a full week. And if you do get in a situation where you're evacuated and you don't have your medication with you, talk to the shelter manager right away and let them know you have medication needs that need to be met, and they need to be met soon before your supply runs out. What I'm most proud of is my portable nebulizer, because this allows me to leave my house and still do my breathing treatments whenever I need to, whether it's for pleasure or for an emergency. This is battery operated. It's my responsibility to make sure that it's charged before I leave the house. And when I turn it on, it delivers my nebulized medication, and it does it for 30 minutes, and that's approximately 2 treatments. The nice thing about it is that it comes with a car charger. And during the winter storms, I did find myself on day number 5 plugging my nebulizer in and driving around the block to charge my nebulizer. The good thing is I planned ahead and it worked. It paid off. Another thing that you might consider is having a wind-up radio versus a battery-operated radio. This is very small and compact and easy to use. It has a handle on the back, and all you have to do is wind it up or charge it in the sun. This will allow you access to emergency information, which will be broadcast over all of our local TV stations during a crisis. Very small, very compact, very easy to use. Since I have respiratory problems, I've been told that it's not wise for me to use my propane lantern in the house anymore. So for Christmas this year, this is what Santa brought me. My brand new lantern, which is completely battery operated. I don't keep it stored with the batteries in it, but I got to tell you, it's the best Christmas present I've ever received. With one push of the light, with the one push of the button, I now have 4 panels of light. I don't even need an accessory flashlight anymore, because this panel clicks off and it can go with me from room to room, wherever I need a light source, still leaving the main light source in place. Simple things like this, taking the time, planning ahead, planning in your budget to afford them, can make life a little bit easier for seniors or someone with disabilities during a time of crisis. The other thing that Santa brought me for Christmas this year was a headlamp in my stocking. Again, this became very helpful during the winter storm of 2010. I didn't expect to use it, but I had to. And it goes on my head, turn it on, and it's a flashlight right then and there. My hands are free to do whatever I need to do, whether it's take medicine, prepare a meal, take care of my husband or my pets. I have a hands-free option, a light available. I have extra batteries and extra lights in storage if I need them. This is an excellent device, and it might seem silly, but it might end up being a real lifesaver for you. It has a green light for night vision. It has a blue light if you want to play CSI. And most importantly, it has a flashing light in case you're trapped or you're in a situation where it's nighttime and you need the rescuers to see you, you can call for help. Another good thing for you to have is a wind-up clock. Now, I know a lot of senior citizens know exactly what this is, but there are kids around who don't have a clue as to what a wind-up clock is. All they're familiar with is digital. But we all know the good old wind-up clock. Find the time, you set this, and it'll help you keep in touch with what's going on, help you keep your medication schedule, and it will help you keep track of the days, hopefully you won't be too long, of the days that the disaster is continuing. You want to make sure you have a working fire extinguisher in your home. A small compact one from the kitchen is just perfect. If it's too heavy for you to use, then again, you need to include your family member or your neighbor in on your disaster plan if this is too heavy for you to pick up. It's easy to use. The fire department can show you how to do it. Make sure it's charged. I can't stress enough how important it is to take the time as a senior citizen, a person with special needs or disabilities, to prepare for a disaster. I keep coming back to Katrina because it was so shocking that that happened in the United States. It doesn't have to happen here in Calaveras County if you take the time to prepare now. It's as simple as putting together a 72-hour food supply for yourself, making sure that you have adequate water. Adequate water for a senior citizen can be up to 1 gallon a day. If you have kidney disease or other medical issues, heart disease, your doctor may want to limit your fluids, but make sure you always have food and water in place to help you in case there's an emergency. Let's summarize. If there are family or friends nearby, let them support you. Let the Red Cross and other agencies know that you need help. Don't worry about appearing independent. Everyone needs help, regardless of their age or physical status. Everyone needs help during an emergency. Preparation does make a difference. When you're upset or confused, already having a disaster plan in place will allow you to do what needs to be done to take care of yourself. It's much easier to remain calm when you know what to do. Use the information provided by FEMA and the American Red Cross to help you prepare. Again, the phone number for FEMA is 1-800-BE-READY. Give them a call tomorrow. They're waiting to hear from you, and they will send you whatever information you need to be safe in your home during a disaster. Take responsibility by planning now. Please remember to listen to the radio or TV about hazardous weather or other events, and heed the advice of local officials. If you're told to leave right away, contact your support person and plan to leave the house immediately. If you have a service animal, make sure that you have adequate food and water to take with you if you're leaving your home for your service animal and for yourself. Make sure you have your medications. Make sure you have a walker, a cane. Make sure you have batteries for your hearing aid. Whatever it is you need, please make sure it's in place. Remember to call the local Office of Emergency Services and let them know what your special needs or disabilities are. That's what they're there for. They want to help ahead of time so that when a disaster occurs, you're not sitting at home worried about what's going on. Gather your essential supplies, keep a list of medications, their dosages, and a copy in your purse or in your wallet ready to go. If you're like me and legally blind, make sure you have sunglasses all the time. I want to thank you for your time today, and I hope that I've been some help in helping senior citizens, people with disabilities and special needs in Calaveras County prepare for any disasters that may occur. Thank you, and in all things important, be well.